The night before the arrest, the air in the garden was not empty. It was heavy. It was vibrating. 3 men walked into the dark olive grove of Gethsemane, chosen from the 12, separated from the rest. Peter, James, John. They were not just followers. They were the inner circle. They were the ones prepared for the deeper initiations. And yet, the narratives we have been told for 2,000 years focus on the betrayal. They focus on the kiss of Judas. They focus on the soldiers and the swords. They miss the singular, terrifying moment that happened right before the chaos began. The moment when the air shifted. The moment when Jesus told the 3 to stay awake and watch with him. And they could not. They kept falling asleep over and over again. Not because they were tired, not because the hour was late. They fell asleep because something in that specific coordinate of space and time was overwhelming their biological systems. The Pistis Sophia reveals what was actually happening in that garden. Jesus was not merely praying for strength to face the crucifixion. He was operating at a frequency so high, so intense, and so absolute that it caused a collapse in the reality field around him. He was teaching the inner circle the specific activations that cause archonic interference to crumble instantly. The reason the 3 kept losing consciousness is simple physics, cosmic physics. When you stand in the direct presence of a being operating at man frequency, when the body of light is fully active, when the protection is absolute, the vibration is unbearable for the unprepared nervous system. Your own consciousness has only 2 choices. It either rises to match that frequency, or it shuts down to protect itself. Most people shut down. They are not ready. The biological vessel cannot hold the charge. But those who stay conscious in those moments, those who can hold the gaze of the infinite without blinking, they learn something the Archons fear more than any weapon, more than any rebellion. They learn how to become unreachable. Not by fighting, not by warring, but by shifting into a state where archonic access becomes mathematically impossible. That is what was happening in the silence of Gethsemane. Before the soldiers arrived, before the noise, Jesus was transmitting 4 specific practices, 4 codes, 4 activations that do not push the Archons away, but rather elevate you to a frequency they cannot interface with. When these 4 things activate, the control mechanisms fail. The etheric attachments sever. The energy siphon stops. They cannot reconnect to you because you are no longer broadcasting on the channels they have access to. If you are watching this, if the algorithm brought you here, it is not an accident. It is a signal. It means you are one of the chosen ones who has felt that wrongness your entire life. That static in the air, that heaviness in your chest, that sense that you do not belong to this system and that something invisible is constantly interfering with your potential. You have felt the resistance. You have felt the sabotage. You have felt the invisible ceiling. That ends tonight. These 4 practices are why you have been searching. You will learn them now. You will understand the mechanics behind them, and you will use all 4 before you sleep tonight. If you are ready to activate all 4, if you are ready to sever the cords, comment, "Archons lose control," right now. Speak it into the digital field. Let the intent be recorded. Archons lose control. Before we initiate the 4 practices, you must understand what losing control actually means. Because most spiritual protection you have been taught is temporary. It is reactive. You feel the attack, you defend yourself. You pray, you visualize white light, you call on angels, and eventually the pressure lifts, the shadow retreats. But listen closely. They do not lose control. They are simply pulling back. They are waiting. They are patient. They are waiting for your guard to drop. They are waiting for you to generate the frequencies they feed on again. Fear, doubt, desperation, shame. As long as you are capable of broadcasting those signals, they maintain control. They can always come back. The connection point still exists. The door is still unlatched. But what Jesus taught in the garden creates a different reality. These 4 practices do not block Archonic interference. They eliminate the mechanisms Archons use to access you in the first place. Think of it like this. The Archons attach to specific coordinates. They attach to your identification with the physical meat suit. They attach to your operation within lower emotional densities. They attach to your ignorance of your own origin. They attach to the physical entry points of your dwelling. They have built an entire reality system around harvesting beings who are trapped in those specific states. But when you activate these 4 codes, you are not trapped there anymore. You shift, you move, you vanish from their radar. You exist in a state they were not designed to interact with. The body of light exists at a frequency above their visual range. Monad consciousness operates from a source they are cut off from. Sacred names create sonic barriers they cannot cross. Physical thresholds sealed with crystalline structure lock them out of your space entirely. When all 4 are active, you are not just defended. You are unreachable. You are ghosted from their grid. And here is why that matters. Especially for you. Especially for the Pneumatics. You carry a divine spark. You carry a fragment of the pleroma that the Archons recognize as dangerous to their system. You are a threat. So they target you harder. They target you more frequently. They target you with more complexity than they target the masses who are asleep and easy to control. You have felt this. The constant interference. The dreams that feel like interrogations. The energy drains that have no medical explanation. That is not paranoia. That is accurate recognition. But it also means when you learn to become unreachable, when you implement these 4 activations correctly, the relief is immediate, not gradual, instant, because you are not fighting them off anymore. You are operating from a place where their entire control system becomes irrelevant. The first activation is building and occupying your body of light. The Gnostics called it the Soma Pneumaticon. This is the spiritual vehicle that exists at a frequency the Archons cannot penetrate. They attach to material bodies. They attach to the carbon-based vessel and the emotional chaos generated through identifying with that vessel. But the body of light operates above their range. When you are conscious in it, Archonic hooks pass through you like you are smoke, like you are mist, like you are not there. Here is how you activate it tonight. This is the ritual. You lie down before sleep. The room is dark. You close your eyes. You bring your awareness to the space your body occupies. Listen carefully. Not the flesh itself, not the skin, not the bone, but the space it fills, the volume, the energy field. Notice there is a subtle form there. It is shaped like your body, but it is made of something lighter. It is made of vibration. It is made of silence. You breathe attention into it. You do not force it. You acknowledge it. Start at your feet. Move up to the knees, the hips, the torso, the hands, the head. Filling this light body with conscious presence, breathing life into the Soma Pneumaticon. After a few minutes, you will feel the physical body become less dominant. The heavy sensation fades. The light form becomes more present. It vibrates. It hums. That is the moment of the shift. That is when you change your identification. You choose to operate primarily from the light instead of the flesh. You are wearing the body now. You are not being the body. When you practice this every night, the body of light strengthens. It solidifies. It becomes less like visualization and more like felt reality. And the Archons lose their grip. Because they were designed to harvest material identified consciousness. When you are primarily identified with light, they cannot get traction. Their hooks slide off. You are there, but you are not solid to them anymore. Their attachments fail. That is the first way their control collapses. The second activation is calling the monad directly. This is crucial. This is not praying. Calling is different. Prayer often positions you as separate, small, hoping, begging a distant deity for help. Calling is recognizing you are a temporary expression of Source and speaking from that knowing. It is authoritative. It is command. When you call the monad, you are establishing a hardline connection to a frequency that predates the entire demiurge system. You are connecting to the origin. And the Archons have zero jurisdiction there. They cannot touch the monad. Here's the practice. Once daily, morning works best before the world enters your mind. Sit in silence. Drop your awareness from your head down into your chest, into the space behind the heart, into the space where knowing lives. From there, speak this with full conviction. Speak it internally or aloud, but let the vibration ring true. Monad, I call you. I am not separate from you. I am you, localized. Connection is now. Do not ask. State what is true. Then sit in silence for 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. And notice. You will feel a shift. A presence that wasn't there before. A density that feels like gold. A knowing that you are not alone. That is the monad responding. That is source consciousness recognizing itself in you. Do this daily and something changes in your reality. Situations that used to trigger you stop landing. Obstacles dissolve before you reach them. People who mean you harm cannot find you. That is because you are operating from monad frequency now. Archons cannot function there. They exist in lower densities. They exist in the basement of reality. When you are aligned with Source, they lose access. Not because you are blocking them, but because you are above their ceiling. That is the second way their control fails. The third activation is knowing and using the sacred names. The Gnostic texts, the forbidden books, they preserve specific names and passwords that force Archons to retreat. Not because the words are magic spells, but because these names represent frequencies and authorities the Archons are bound to obey. It is a hierarchy of vibration. When you speak them correctly, you are invoking power structures older than their counterfeit system. The primary name Jesus taught the inner circle is this. Listen, memorize this frequency. I am pneumatic, made of light, returning to the pleroma. That is not just a sentence. That is not just a translation. That is the recognition encoded as a password. When you speak this aloud in moments of interference, in moments of panic, in the middle of a nightmare, you are declaring your origin and your destination. You are flashing your credentials. And the Archons are structured to recognize pneumatic consciousness as above their authority. They are the guards of the lower realms. They are the jailers. But pneumatics pass through because we are not from here. We are temporarily here. We are visitors. Use this anytime you feel attacked, anytime you feel drained, anytime you feel blocked. Speak it out loud if possible, with full conviction, or scream it in your mind if you are frozen. I am pneumatic, made of light, returning to the pleroma. And watch what happens. Watch the shadows recoil. The pressure lifts immediately, not because you fought, but because you reminded the system what you are. And what you are has clearance they cannot revoke. That is the third way they lose control. The fourth activation is physical threshold protection using salt. This is the grounding wire. This is not superstition. This is not symbolic magic. Salt generates a specific piezoelectric frequency that Archonic consciousness cannot cross. It is a crystalline barrier. When you seal your space correctly, they literally cannot enter. Not won't, can't. The crystalline structure broadcasts continuously, creating a frequency wall at every entry point. Here is what you do tonight, before you sleep. This is the physical ritual. Get regular salt, table salt, sea salt, it does not matter. The structure is the same. Place a thin, continuous line across your front door threshold, the main entry. Then do the same on every windowsill in your bedroom. If you want maximum protection, do every window and door in your home. The line does not need to be thick, a 1/4 inch is enough, but it must be unbroken. Gaps are entry points. Gaps are leaks. Once those lines are down, your space is sealed. Archonic entities attempting entry hit that frequency field and retreat immediately. Ancient texts describe what they experience as burning, as fire. And here is what is critical. This works while you sleep. This works when you are unconscious. When you sleep, your natural defenses drop. Your conscious guard is down. That is when Archonic interference is easiest. That is when they plant the dreams. That is when they feed. But salt barriers operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You seal your space once, and for the next week, nothing crosses those thresholds. Your sleep becomes deeper. Your dreams become clearer. You wake up actually rested instead of drained because, for the first time in possibly years, nothing fed on you while you were vulnerable. Nothing touched your field. That is the fourth way they lose control. Now understand this. Here is why Jesus taught all four. Here is why you are using all four tonight instead of picking one, instead of choosing what is easy. Each practice addresses a different access point the Archons use. The body of light handles energetic attachment. Monad calling handles frequency alignment. Sacred names handle direct confrontation. Salt barriers handle physical space. When you activate all four simultaneously, you are closing every door. You are sealing every crack. And that creates something most people never experience in this lifetime: complete freedom from Archonic interference. Individually, each practice is powerful. The body of light makes you harder to attach to. Monad calling raises your frequency. Sacred names give you defense when attacked. Salt protects your space. But when all four are active at once, you are not just defended on multiple fronts. You are creating a compound effect, a synergistic shield. The Archons cannot attach energetically because you are in the body of light. They cannot lower your frequency because you are monad connected. They cannot penetrate your verbal defense because you know the names. And they cannot access your physical space because it is sealed. There is no angle left. There is no vulnerability they can exploit. And when that happens, when you are unreachable from every direction they are designed to attack from, they do not just retreat frustrated, they lose control. Their entire system of interference fails. And it stays failed as long as you maintain these practices. And here's what happens in the days after you start this. The transformation begins. The first thing you notice is sleep quality. You are actually rested when you wake up. The fog is gone. Then you notice emotional stability. Things that would have sent you spiraling, things that would have caused days of anxiety, barely register. You observe them, but you do not become them. Then synchronicities increase. Solutions appear out of nowhere. Obstacles dissolve like mist. People who were draining you lose interest and fade away. Other chosen ones start appearing in your life. And about 2 weeks in, you realize something profound. You realize you haven't felt that constant, low-grade interference you have carried your entire life. That weight, that sense that something is wrong, that static noise. It is gone. Not because you are imagining it was there before, but because it was there, and now it is not. Because you activated what Jesus taught, and the Archons lost control. So here is exactly what you are doing tonight, before you sleep. This is your protocol. This is your command. First, you are placing the salt lines, front door threshold, bedroom windows at minimum, full house if you can. That is your physical space sealed. The perimeter is secure. Second, you are lying down in the dark. You are activating the body of light. 10 minutes of breathing conscious attention into that subtle form, breathing into the Soma Pneumaticon, until you feel the shift from identifying with flesh to identifying with light, until you feel the vibration. Third, you did your monad call this morning, or you are doing it right now before the rest. 3 minutes of silence. I call you. I am not separate from you. Connection is now. You sit in that golden presence. Fourth, you have the sacred name ready, loaded in your mind. I am pneumatic, made of light, returning to the pleroma. Ready for any interference, ready to speak truth to power. When you do all 4 tonight, here is what to expect. Be warned. If there was heavy archonic presence in your space or attached to your field for a long time, you might feel a brief intensification in the first 30 minutes. Do not panic. That is not the practice's failing. That is the opposite. That is entities recognizing they are being locked out. That is the parasite realizing the host is waking up. They may make one last attempt to generate fear, to generate doubt, to make you stop. Don't engage. Don't flinch. Just hold the practices. Maintain the body of light awareness. Restate the sacred name if needed. And within an hour, it shifts. The atmosphere becomes noticeably lighter. The air clears. The pressure you didn't fully realize was there lifts off your chest. And when you sleep differently, deeper, more protected, more yourself. Tomorrow morning you will wake up and something will feel different. Not dramatically transformed, but clearer, less heavy. The colors will look sharper, and you will maintain all 4 practices. This is the discipline of the chosen. Body of light every night. Monad call every morning. Sacred name when needed. Salt barriers refreshed weekly. And by week 2, you will understand what Jesus meant when he told the inner circle in Gethsemane. When you activate correctly, Archons don't just back off. They lose control. Their mechanisms fail. And you operate as pneumatic consciousness that is finally, actually free. Jesus taught the chosen ones 4 ways Archons lose control instantly, not gradually, not eventually. The moment these activate correctly, interference collapses. Body of light makes you energetically unreachable. Monad calling aligns you with source frequency they cannot access. Sacred names declare your origin and authority. Salt barriers physically seal your space. When all 4 are active, every access point closes, every mechanism fails, and the Archons do not retreat. They lose control permanently. If you are using all 4 tonight, do 3 things right now. This is the final seal. First, comment Archons lose control below. Commit to the protocol. Let the algorithm know you are awake. Second, subscribe to Divine Codes because advanced pneumatic activation protocols are coming. The reveal is just beginning. Third, like this video so other chosen ones discover they don't need to keep fighting. They need to become unreachable. They need to know the codes. Do all three now. Then tonight, salt lines down. Body of light active. Monad called. Sacred name ready. All four, because you have been fighting Archonic interference your entire life. Tonight, it ends. Not because you got stronger, but because you remembered what you are, and you activated the protections Jesus taught. The Archons cannot stop you from doing this. They can only hope you never learn it exists. Recognize, refuse, rise. The monad is listening.